The Chargers do not know what the stakes are going to be on Sunday against the Raiders, but either way, the offense should feature their spark plug, Derius Davis.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 9 seasons, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen, and if you need to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, we all know Derius Davis to be the all-pro punt and kick returner, a guy who's exceptionally electric with the ball in his hands. And lately, he's been featured more on offense, and he has explosive speed. So I want to see him get featured against the Raiders. And another guy who always gets up for Raiders games is Khalil Mack. He is an absolute monster, and he loves sacking Raider quarterbacks. It's always about revenge of the Mac. And then, of course, we finish things up with our bold and game predictions.
Yeah, I think there's no one that gets up for Raiders games better than the former Raider himself, Khalil Mack. But it is going to be a very fun episode today because we have a double set of keys for success depending on what the outcome is going to be on Saturday's game. But today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. It is our Keys for Success show, but obviously for the Chargers, everything hangs in the balance of what happens against the Pittsburgh Steelers with the Cincinnati Bengals coming into town on Saturday night. The Bengals win that game.
Go Bengals!
The Chargers can be the 5th seed when things come. They would have a chance at the 5th seed if they beat the Raiders. If the Steelers win, the Chargers are locked into the 6th spot and wouldn't need to actually play their starters. So we're getting into keys for success for both. But the first one we're starting with here with Derius Davis, who all of a sudden has been an impact player offensively, is he's going to play either way, you would like to think. And I think either unit that goes out there should have Derius Davis as a part of the offense, especially what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, 0 career touchdowns. And then over the last few games, he has 2 touchdowns, 1 in back-to-back games. So it's been great seeing that evolve and seeing him be part of the offense. And I want to see that going, especially in a Week 18 game, to see what you have.
12 catches on 16 targets for 109 yards for the year, but 4 catches on 4 targets for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games, including 3 of those 4 catches resulting in a first down. Derius Davis has explosive ability. I mean, anytime you get the ball in his hands, he turns into a punt and kick returner, weaving through traffic, in and out of blocks. And, he's a guy that can take it the distance. And I think recently he has shown that he has good hands as well, that he's a guy that should probably be targeted a little bit more deep down the football field to try to get some more of those downfield explosive plays. We saw the big play to Ladd McConkey. I think Derius Davis is another guy that can get a couple of those deep shots, and he has the speed to outrun anybody on the defense.
Yeah, and I mean, he got really close. I mean, he got a punt return touchdown last week too and ended up getting called back, but we could see him explode in that way as well if they decide to use him as a punt returner. If they need this game, I'm sure that they will. But yeah, I mean, either way, get into the end zone one way or another. Derius Davis, after back-to-back games of doing it, it seems like he has another good chance to do it here, whether it's on special teams, whether it's as a receiver. But we knew he was that, right? We knew he had the return ability. We knew if you got the ball in his hands, he was electric. I think the biggest development is them actually using him as a true wide receiver the last couple of weeks. And that full extension catch, diving catch that he had last week showed off the hands for sure. I'd say if you need this game, another big part of it, feature the tight ends, right? Yes. Big game potentially for Stone Smart. I'd love to see him. And also Will Dissly, who should play in this game if they don't, if they actually need it. The Raiders have given up this season 1,055 yards to tight ends. There's only 3 tight ends who have done that this season. Like, basically, tight ends going against the Raiders are Brock Bowers, who's been the best tight end in the NFL this year as far as receivers go. But Divine Diablo, Robert Spillane, both total liabilities in coverage.
Giant red targets.
Yeah, huge. I mean, that's easily where they're the worst. I think they have the worst coverage grade as a team on Pro Football Focus. So feature the tight ends. If you have to win this game, I think that's a big part of winning it.
I agree completely. Actually, I had that as one of my keys as well. Honestly, for both situations, get the tight ends more work is what I had. Stone Smart had some big catches, like you mentioned. 5 of his 16 catches on the season have come in the last 2 games alone. So he's really been getting that opportunity to be that main, receiving back, obviously receiving tight end with, Will Dissly coming, being in and out of the lineup with some injuries. And unfortunately, Hayden Hurst not really being a factor at all in the receiving game. So it's been Stone Smart. And so there's a guy that's been able to make big catches, attacking down the seam, down the football field, showcasing some strong hands and ability to go up and get the ball in those contested catch situations. More Stone Smart from the tight ends, please and thank you.
Yeah, and I think he's another guy who should play regardless, right? He's not a guy that's getting sat even if you don't need this game. So let's get to the other side of things, right? If the Chargers are locked into the 6th seed, if we know they're playing the Ravens or a 1% chance that they're playing the Steelers in the first round, for me, on offense, none of these guys play. Justin Herbert, Ladd McConkey, Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, Will Dissly, J.K. Dobbins, honestly, maybe even Zion Johnson and Bradley Bozeman. Like, Zion Johnson hasn't impressed a bunch of people, but out of the 3 of them, he's still been the best. Bradley Bozeman played really well in the last game, and just obviously if those guys are playing, you probably don't want to see what's behind them. But I'm not letting any of those guys touch grass. If the Chargers don't need this game and they're locked in, I'm resting all of those guys, either injuries or just importance to this team. But I do want to get to the keys that change dramatically, David, if the Chargers don't need this game and have the chance to sit their starters potentially. What are you looking for then, right? Because it becomes totally different. For me, I started with feed Kamani Vidal. That's easy for me. Get him as many reps as possible. Get him reps in pass protection, more experience there. See what it looks like if he gets 15 to 20 touches in a game. This is an all-important kind of showcase for what you have going forward and just an opportunity you don't get. Like, you're not going to give him 15 to 20 attempts if J.K. Dobbins is active. Right. So I think it also gives you a chance to work on the running back screen game. It just gives you a chance to kind of see what is working right now for you in the run game and trying some different things out. But I kind of want to see an extended look at him if the game doesn't matter.
It's funny. Like we don't ever go over any of these notes, but that's obviously one of mine as well. Kamani Vidal, 5 carries for 24 yards in each of the last 2 games. Let's get him 20 plus carries. If this game is, not something that the Chargers need, like, let's give him a real, like, shot at being a feature back. Like, let's get him, get him rolling. Let's see what he can really do with the actual full game's worth of carries, because he really hasn't had that at all at any point in this season. And I think my other key is, let's feature Quentin Johnston as wide receiver 1. Like, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see in this game. If the Chargers don't need it, run the offense through him. Let's let him, get confidence going, make some big catches, like, go out there and really showcase his ability to be a top receiver in this kind of format. I think, because, hey, Ladd McConkey probably not going to play in this situation. So Quentin Johnston, you're the next man up. Let's go see what you can do when you're the main guy.
Yeah, and it's interesting what they would do with Ladd McConkey. Obviously, he already has the records he's going to be able to attain this season for a Chargers rookie. He is a rookie, though, and sitting a rookie. I know I said him and Joe Alt shouldn't touch grass. Like, that's kind of a hard sell at times in locker rooms to be sitting rookies. I think the nice thing with Ladd, obviously, he is a little banged up this week, limited participation on Thursday, did not practice on Wednesday. So you could at least kind of have that where it's like, we're just holding them out as an abundance of caution. We already have something on the injury report. But I went with something similar. Like you said, we don't go over our notes before that. I'm looking for a DJ Chark sighting. How about this? If this game doesn't matter, I'm launching 6 deep balls from Taylor Heineke to DJ Chark as just an audition to, okay, hey, this offense is always looking for more ways to be explosive. This is why this dude was brought in. He had 4 targets, in the last couple of games and didn't catch any of them, right? This would be a great opportunity where he's not hurting you. Like, it's not at the expense of someone you'd be playing in a game like this anyways. Josh Palmer probably unlikely to play in this game at this point, the way it's looking right now, either way. Ladd McConkey banged up. Quentin Johnston, DJ Chark, Derius Davis. Let's see what happens.
Let's roll.
But hey, might as well you sign this dude, give him 5 deep balls in this game and see what happens.
I'm 100% with it. I love that. I honestly am kind of mad at myself that I didn't think about that.
TJ's good too.
But I absolutely would love to see that. I mean, that's all we've been wanting is throw the ball deep. Let DJ Chark go hunt.
Yeah.
But he has not got that opportunity at all. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, and for the defensive keys, it's a lot of the same things where it's like you have a certain set of things. If you need to win this game, there's a couple things the Chargers must do. But if they don't have to win it, I'd like to see some things they could experiment with, especially with the safety group on the back end with all the changes there. So we're going to get into our keys for success defensively for both scenarios that could play out, including Khalil Mack doing what he always does, and that's terrorize the Raiders. I don't think there's anyone in the league who's sacked Aiden O'Connell as many times as Khalil Mack did, and he did it all in one game. So we're getting into that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you about Prize Picks because it is the #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike on other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You're not picking lineups against anonymous lineups where maybe you're rooting for half of the same team as the other person. You can do the research, you see the numbers, and that's where you're doing it. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, and Prize Picks is the best way to get on action on most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I'm probably staying away for Chargers right now because we don't know if the game's going to be important or not, but I'm going to will this one into existence and go with the Bengals. I'm going to go with Joe Burrow to throw for more or less than 285.5 passing yards and pair that with future Charger T. Higgins to get more or less than 74.5 receiving yards. All you have to do, download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. It's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings a new chapter, 365 blank pages waiting for you to fill. If there's a part of your life you want to rewrite or a plot twist that you've been craving, why wait? Life isn't about fleeting resolutions. It's about taking control and becoming the author of your own story. Think of therapy as a personal editor helping you craft the life you deserve. It's not just for crisis situations. Therapy can help you develop healthier coping strategies, improve your relationships, and empower you to be the best version of yourself. Whether you're facing a challenge or just looking for personal growth, therapy is a powerful tool to help guide your journey. Whether it's learning how to set boundaries or tackling stress in new ways, therapy can help you develop skills for a better tomorrow. Even if you've never tried therapy, the benefits are clear. Finding someone to talk to and gaining fresh perspectives can make all the difference in how you navigate life's ups and downs. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. David, it's time to get into our keys for success defensively. And again, we're going to start here with what the keys are if the Chargers need this game. Because the last thing that you can have happen is a chance at the 5 seed. You start your starters and you don't win the game. That's code red, right? Like that. Something not a lot of people are entertaining as a possibility for this.
I'm not.
But you can't let it be a possibility, right? It starts with you, and it starts with you not being able to overlook it. Because the Chargers, even though they'd have the 5th seed to play for, they're in the playoffs regardless, and they know that in the back of their head. They're, the stakes, you're going to have to get yourself up for this one a little bit in my mind. And I think that if you need it, you go to the man and you go to the well that's always provided for you, and that is Khalil Mack having a big day against the Raiders. And it's funny because the Raiders traded him. He loved being part of the Raiders, best friends with Derek Carr, all these things. They traded him to the Bears. He ends up with the Chargers, and all he's done since he got traded from the Bear to the Bears is just absolutely wreck the Raiders. Like,
Oh, yeah.
as a Bear, as a Charger, if it's Khalil Mack going up against the Raiders, it hasn't mattered. And I'll put it this way. He's played 7 games against the Raiders. In those 7 games, he has 11.5 sacks. Like, Khalil Mack is the best defensive player of all time when he plays against the Raiders, right? And I just think for me, it would be great for someone who hasn't had the statistical season he did last year, right? 17 sacks last year. This year, Pro Football Focus at 7. You see it at 6.5 as well. It'd be nice for him to bump that up at the end of the season. And I mean, he loves seeing the black and silver on the other side. I'll never forget one of his first games as a Charger. Maybe his first game against the Raiders as a Charger. Sacks Derek Carr 3 times. And we're like, yeah, I could get used to that. And the great thing is there's one Tom Telesco reach that we saw coming all the way that they should be targeting. DJ Glaze, the 3rd round pick. That should have been a 7th round pick or however it was on the consensus board. 3 pressures in 8 of his last 9 games, 3 or more pressures, 4+ pressures in 6 of his last 8 games. If I'm Joey Bosa, if I'm Khalil Mack, that's where I'm going.
Oh, yeah. 3 sacks, 47 pressures allowed from DJ Glaze, and his running mate right next to him, his right guard, is not much better either. Dylan Parham, 5 sacks and 36 pressures allowed on the season. So that's definitely a liability to exploit, but also Colton Miller as well. I think, Khalil Mack has really had his way with Colton Miller in the past, like forklifting him into the quarterback and dropping the quarterback at the same time. Yeah,
And
Khalil
one of his
Mack has
6
the
sacks,
ability
yeah.
to do that. Colton Miller's given up 7 sacks and 35 pressures this season. So those are the guys that you want to go after. The interior, center, Jackson Powers Johnson and James is very good. They're good players, like very, very good players. So you're going to have a little bit of a harder time attacking them, but those other guys, absolutely open season. Go exploit them and expose them all game long.
Yeah, great stat padding day potentially for the Chargers pass rush. I'd say the other ones for me, keep the Raiders away from milestones. There's a couple Chargers milestones we're going to be talking about in this one. Jacoby Myers, 96 yards away to hit 1,000. Brock Bowers, 9 receptions away from the tight end record. Not as a rookie, the total tight end record for receptions in a season. If you
They're
can
going
keep
to
both
feed
of
him
them
for sure.
Oh, 100%. And that's why, you talked about it yesterday, you got to stop Brock Bowers, so we won't rehash all of that again. But if neither of those guys hits that, if you can keep both those guys away from Brock Bowers doesn't have 9 catches, Jacoby Myers doesn't have some crazy game where he hits 96 yards, you're probably going to win this game. And I'd say the other thing, dominate their run game. One of the only past 2 victory for the Raiders is for them to run for a bunch of yards, but they are the worst rushing team in the league. They beat up on the Saints last week, and they never were in it, so they could run the ball over and over again. There wasn't, that's just how the game script played out. They average 8 less rushing yards than any other team in the league. Like, they're almost a full 10 yards behind 31st place in rushing so far this year. That's how bad of a rushing team they've been. Do not make them any better. But let's get to the other side, right? Because on the other side, it's a little different than the offense because there are a couple guys where it's like, I'm not saying Joe Alt should play or Delon McConkey, but I think Cam Hart and Tarheeb still play, right?
Yeah,
For me, I'm sitting Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Christian Fulton, Deion Henley, Denzel Perriman, who's banged up, so I'm just not going to try with him, and Poona Ford. To me, those guys don't touch anything, and I think you have plenty of guys at those other positions where you don't necessarily need those guys.
Absolutely. And I think one of the guys that should be getting all the opportunities rushing the passer in that situation is Bud Dupree. And there's a big reason why. If Bud Dupree gets one more sack, then he cashes in big, 250 large, hits his account with 1 sack. So I want to see Bud Dupree and Thule on the outsides, wrecking shop, rushing the passer hard. And I know Bud Dupree wants to cash that check.
Absolutely. And I think to that same degree, but not incentive-wise, if the Chargers don't need this game, I'm letting Junior Colson play every single snap.
I'm with you.
Every single snap. The Chargers' third-round pick has struggled at this point as he transitioned to the speed at the NFL level, and we've told you guys before over and over again. Like, who knows what Deion Henley would have been, had he played all of last year? But I do think he's better this year than he would have been last year. Obviously,
I agree.
So I just think that is really, really hard. We've seen many Chargers linebackers come in and struggle right away. It's a very hard position to totally translate, even if you're going into the same defense, which we thought would help him maybe more. They seem convinced that he needs to be out on the field, right? Give him every snap in this game, and also just tell him, right? Be aggressive. Trust your first read. If you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. This game doesn't matter.
Go out there and play, man. Go have fun.
Just, play fast. That's what I'm telling him. I'm giving him every single snap.
I love that. I think that's a great key. He's the guy that needs it. He needs all the snaps he can get.
And he's not going to get it if Denzel Perriman and Deion Henley are playing the game they need. To me,
exactly. I think for me, one of my keys, whether it matters or not, is stay disciplined on the back end. I think the Raiders like to take some shots, especially after momentum plays. Obviously, don't cough the ball up, but go look for your opportunities to go take the ball away. And they're going to give it to you. Aiden O'Connell likes to throw it deep. He's 12 of 29, 372 yards on 3 touchdowns. When he's throwing over 20 plus yards down the football field. Trey Tucker is the guy they like to kind of feature in those situations. He has their deepest reception at 58 yards this season. So they like to go, get those shot plays. Just continue doing what you've done all year and take them away.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially because it's like, hey, even if you don't need this game, beat the Raiders anyways. Right?
Yes.
Like, we'll talk about that a
FDR,
little bit. Like, you're still going to go all out. Whoever's out there trying to finish your season with 11 wins. Doesn't mean Justin Herbert needs to play, but it doesn't mean you're not trying for 11 either. But my last thing, especially for if it does not matter in this game, figure out what you have on the back end at safety. Like, that is the great thing about having this game. I know you talked about yesterday on the crossover, hey, Alohi Gilman should play either way. I agree. If he's 100%, I get that. If
Yeah.
he's anything less than that, I'm sitting him. I mean, I think
Yeah,
you
I'm with
kind of
you.
know what he is at this point, but like, wouldn't be bad to shake some rust off. Maybe you give him a handful of snaps early, something like that. But to me, I'm giving pretty much all of my snaps to Tony Jefferson, Eddie Jackson, Kendall Williamson, and just seeing what I have there. I mean, we haven't seen an addition to the roster this week as far as them just going and signing someone off of the streets. So this is kind of what you have right now. Go see, right? Let these dudes play. Let them go get as many snaps as you can. Sit Derwin James, Alohi Gilman. If he's not ready, sit them. And just see what you have. Even Tony Jefferson, it's like you feel like you kind of need him for the playoffs, but he's probably not a guy that gets a rest in a game like this. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I have on the back end and trying to get the communication with these backups who have all had to come in and play meaningful snaps for you this year as much locked in with as many snaps in this defense as I possibly can, especially someone like Eddie Jackson who's been signed for less than 2 weeks, right? So that's what I'm doing in a game like this. If it doesn't matter, give those guys all the snaps. I know what Derwin James is. You know, I know what you have there. Let these guys and figure out what you can get from these guys and how best to use them because you're probably going to have to use them in the playoffs at some point. But let's
Evaluate
continue.
the depth.
You have to. And one of the big things for the bold in game predictions is the kind of a theme. Can the Chargers backups beat the Raiders? Because that would be really, really funny. So we're going to get into that and the rest of our bold in game predictions and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First thing I tell you guys, though, that the NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's going to be a little bit different this week. The Chargers might not play their starters. They may play their starters, and the lines are out right now. And currently, it's at 4.5-point favorites for the Chargers as they go on the road to Las Vegas in this game. And that's a line that can move. But I'll tell you one thing. If the Chargers starters are playing and that line is still up -4.5, I love that. Yeah, I'd take that every day of the week. But it's not just that. There's so many ways you can bet how many points each team will score, what the over-under for the total points will be, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com to join today for your best chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. David, we have lots of bold predictions to get into and talk about what we think is going to happen in this game that could have a million different outcomes depending on what happens this weekend before it. But I do want to say thank you all for making us your first listen. Honestly, we had to sick and miss today, and you guys have still made this one of our best weeks that we've ever had. So thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for checking back in and, you know, allowing us that to, you know, deal with a sick baby at home because it's been a freaking nightmare. But we appreciate you guys, as always, for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to go check out Locked On NFL, a new slate over there with 2 shows a day with my guy Tyler, the Madman Roland, and also Tony Wiggins as they bring on the people who cover their teams every single day on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. And let's start with Athir, David, because he thinks that the backups are going to be playing in this game, and he thinks they beat the Raiders anyways.
Daniel, David, my bold prediction for Sunday, the Chargers will have nothing to play for because the Steelers won on Saturday. However, Tyler Heineke will lead the Chargers to a victory, 24-16. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, I love that. And that's been a sentiment. A lot of our bold predictions is basically just like, hey, go beat them anyways, right? And I think the question really for this, David, in this bold prediction is basically just this. Can the Chargers backups go and beat the Raiders, even if it's a game they don't necessarily need?
Yeah, I think the Raiders have done a good job of beating some really, really bad quarterbacks the last couple of weeks, but
Sure.
I don't think Taylor Heineke is in that category. I think he's a decent quarterback, and so I'm with Athir.
They beat Lamar.
I think that the Chargers backups are better than the Raiders starters. The Raiders lost 10 games in a row before they won these last 2 games. So let's not forget that. Yeah, they're on a 2-game winning streak. That's great. They snapped a 10-game losing streak. So this team is horrible. All right. Yeah. Family, trust, respect, bury them. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be pretty hilarious for, you know, Taylor Heineke and Derius Davis and DJ Chark to down the Raiders. And like, maybe you don't even want to win and just help them continue to sabotage their draft stock. So, you know, they can mess that up in 2025 and going forward. But it's pretty funny that now the Raiders run and win when it means nothing. But I would love to see the Chargers back up. I don't know if I'd favor the Chargers backups over the Raiders, right? Everyone's out there playing for their jobs and whatever, but either way, it's possible. I'm not going to say it's not. That's for sure. Let's get to this one from Stephen Gillard, who says, bold prediction, the starters are pulled before the start of the fourth quarter and win, securing the 5 seed in the playoffs. So obviously, a fears is if the Steelers win, this would be in the instance that the Bengals win and then the Chargers also win to secure the 5th playoff seed. But I know a lot of people are like, okay, well, just put the starters out there for 2 quarters, put up 41 points, and you can sit everyone the rest of the game. Obviously, I would love to see that.
Is this the greatest show on turf or what? What offense are we looking at here?
Sure. I mean, yeah, obviously the offense last couple weeks, 74
Much
points.
better.
You know, the Raiders over their last 3 games have only allowed 13 points per game. Obviously, it's against the Falcons, the Saints, and the Jaguars, who are not, you know, the Falcons with Kirk Cousins,
Trash.
I probably should, you know, put out there too. But their offense has been a little bit better with Scott and Norv Turner running things. They changed things up a little bit. Defense has been playing a little bit better. It's just another one of those things where it's just really, really hard to gauge where they're at. But if you could play your starters and you need the game, yeah, it would be huge for you to be able to rest your starters for a fourth quarter, especially if you can get to that point in the game healthy. The problem is what is the lead you really feel safe at? Especially if you need this game. I don't think you're halfway through the third quarter and you know, up 14, you're going to start pulling your starters.
Nah, I mean, it's got to be a 30 point, you know, a 28, 30 point lead, I think, before you can feel comfortable to do that. So, hey, if they're pulling the Patriots where they got, you know, 35, 38 points up on them, then yeah, go for it. I mean, that's the dream, right? That is the optimal situation if that is what it is, right?
Yeah.
If they need the game, they go beat the brakes off the Raiders for 3 quarters and then rest and head right into the playoffs and go beat the brakes off the Houston Texans, then great. That's exactly what everyone would love to see.
Yeah.
Does that always happen? Rarely ever. So we'll see what happens in that situation. But yes, that is the optimal situation for sure.
Divisional games just usually aren't that easy, man.
They're not.
It is what it is. Like, this is a team that should have beat the Chiefs, who have 1 loss this year and fumbled the snap in plus territory with a game-winning field goal on the line and just totally fumbled it and bungled it away. But let's get to this next one here from Noah, and his bold prediction is very bold. And it's that J.K. Dobbins hits 1,000 yards rushing. Hitting 1,000 yards rushing while missing 4 games on IR would be insanely impressive. But he'd have to have a hell of a game, David. He's 158 yards short of being the first Chargers 1,000-yard rusher since Melvin Gordon, who last did it in 2017.
Yeah, and he's only hit 135 yards, and that happened to be in the first game of the season against the Raiders. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, he could do it potentially. What I think is probably a little bit more achievable here is him getting to 900 rushing yards, which for him would turn into $150,000 in his bank account. So I definitely feel like that's going to be something he's going to be like, hey, let me just get these 58 yards, man. I really, you know, I need that extra. I didn't have any guaranteed money in my contract. Can I go ahead and get that? I need that, please. I think that's something that's more achievable for J.K. Dobbins.
Obviously, I don't have the money that J.K. Dobbins was, but I'd be asking for 115 carries if I had $150,000 on the line. But yeah, I mean, if they need this game, I 100% think he gets that 58 yards and gets that incentive. And shout out to his agents, like, yeah, I mean, he could get $1,000 for an incentive, but what if we gave him an incentive for 900 rushing yards? Which seems pretty random. But let's get to this last one from Guy Robichaux, who says, since he'll be getting a lot of snaps with ultimately resting Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa at some point during the game, Thule will have 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble, with one of the sacks being a strip sack. I love this. Obviously, he would be having a great game, but it would be nice to see him get hot again, right? I mean, he had 7 sacks over a 4-game stretch between weeks 8 and 11, only 1.5 sacks in the 6 games since then. Obviously, he still leads the team with 8.5 sacks, so it's hard to say he's not pulling his weight. But always, the tackles for loss seem very doable with him because he just throws tight ends around and is always liable to get a tackle in the backfield.
Yeah, he's a beast on the edge, man. He was an NFL ready run defender as soon as he came into the league, and he's
100%.
just gotten better, gotten stronger since he has gotten in the league. Got there with Ben Herbert getting, you know, bulked up over there. But I'd like to see him if the game doesn't matter. Thule, Bud Dupree on the outsides, getting it all game long. That's exactly what I would like to see, and I think he has obviously the rare ability, and I'd just like to see somebody on this team go over double-digit sacks, and he's obviously the closest one there.
He definitely is the closest one there. But I'll tell you one thing. My bold prediction has another player getting to 10 sacks. I have Khalil Mack going 3.5 sacks in this game to get to 10. On Pro Football Focus, he only needs 3 because he's at 7 because they don't do half sacks over there. But I'm saying Khalil Mack doing what he does, 3.5 sacks against the Raiders. He hits double digits, and I think that's more indicative of kind of the production that he's had this year, or at least the value he's brought this year, even if the production, the 17 sack number isn't there.
I love it. Mine is Derius Davis, 110 receiving yards, including a 50-yard touchdown catch. I love Derius Davis in this one. I hope he gets featured. I hope he gets those opportunities to go off.
Shout out to you, Alvin. If no one wants to watch the show, at least you could watch it 10,000 times because we're giving your boy Derius Davis some props. And just, keep it on a loop. Time spent listening, all that's important. Let's get to the game prediction, which is weird, right? It's a game we don't know the stakes. You don't know who's playing in it, and it's not for injury purposes. I'm doing my game prediction under the assumption I'm predicting that the Bengals will win and the Chargers will need this game, and I have the Chargers winning 30-17. Chargers take care of business against a bad team as they've done all season long. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you, but I think it's going to be in more grand style. I have them beating 66-17. I think we got to get that one back. We got to get that one back. Sorry, 63-21 is just something.
What if they get Jim Harbaugh afterwards, though, and we get Tom Telesco back?
Yeah, we're not going to play that game. We're not going to go that far here, but I feel like we got to get some retro. Now, honestly, like no joke.
No, stay with it.
No, mine really is. I'm going 35-17. Oh. That's really where my score. I just wanted to have a little bit of fun.
Nah, you gotta stay with it.
I'm with you as well. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are really kind of sputtering, and the Bengals are firing on all cylinders offensively for sure. I think they're going to be a little bit too much to take, and I think they're going to win, which means the Chargers are going to need this game, and they're going to get this game.
Steelers lost 3 in a row. I don't know if anyone saw the kind of altercation in the locker room between George Pickens and Russell Wilson. And far as the miscommunication, I'll tell you one thing. That's not going to be Justin Herbert's answer about his wide receiver, even if the wide receiver ran the wrong route. But that's a story for another day. But obviously, things not going great in Pittsburgh. Hopefully, the Bengals can get it done on Saturday night so the Chargers will have a chance for the 5 seed and an 11-win season under Jim Harbaugh. No matter who goes out there, it's FTR. Beat the Raiders anyways. I know 66 points would be great. Getting at, winning and beating them with your backups might even be better than that. If Taylor Heineke and DJ Chark go give the Raiders what they probably should want anyway, which is a better draft pick. But Go get the win. Go beat the Raiders. Go get the sweep. And we will be back with you guys on Sunday night with a live show to be breaking it down and all of the craziness to come. Because guess what? We get a whole nother week of real shows because the Chargers are playing a game next week. The Chargers are in the playoffs. Where will they be playing? We'll find out on Sunday. And make sure you guys don't miss it by subscribing and following for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from, as well as following the show on all of our social media. You can find the show every day on Twitter at Locked On LAC, on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can also find it on our Twitter at Dan Talk Sports for me and David at Dro Talk SD, as well as calling in for any bold predictions, a buy or sell, or a mailbag question at 323-524-7924 on the Locked On Chargers voicemail line. But man, I'm excited for the game for different reasons, right? If they need it, if they don't need it. If they don't need it, keep my boy Justin Herbert safe. For God's sakes, if you're going to have to play him, please keep him safe. And just go smack the Raiders upside the head and give us a victory Sunday night show live here. Make sure you guys are back here for that. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.